Chapter 5 Life Processes Question Answers from Class 10th Subject Science. Questions page 81. Question 1. Why is diffusion insufficient to meet the oxygen requirements of multicellular organisms like humans? Answer. In unicellular organisms, the entire surface is in contact with the environment, allowing simple diffusion for gas exchange. However, in multicellular organisms like humans, all cells are not in direct contact with the surrounding environment. Therefore, simple diffusion is too slow and insufficient to meet the oxygen requirements of all body cells. It is estimated that it would take 3 years for a molecule of oxygen to reach our toes from our lungs via diffusion. Question 2. What criteria do we use to decide whether something is alive? Answer. We typically use visible movement such as running or breathing to decide if something is alive. However, since some movements are invisible to the naked eye, molecular movements, and some living things like plants do not show visible movement, the presence of life processes such as maintenance, growth, and molecular movement are the defining criteria for life. Question 3. What are outside raw materials used for by an organism? Answer. Organisms use outside raw materials primarily for energy and growth. The most common raw materials are food as a source of energy and carbon-based molecules, oxygen used to break down food sources for cellular needs, respiration, water essential for various bodily functions and photosynthesis in plants. Question 4. What processes would you consider essential for maintaining life? Answer. The processes essential for maintaining life include nutrition to transfer energy sources from outside to inside the body, respiration to acquire oxygen and break down food for energy, transportation to carry food and oxygen to all parts of the body, excretion to remove harmful waste byproducts generated by chemical reactions. Questions page 87. Question 1. What are the differences between autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition? Answer. Autotrophic nutrition. Organisms synthesize their own food from simple inorganic sources like carbon dioxide and water. This usually involves photosynthesis using sunlight and chlorophyll. Example, green plants. Heterotrophic nutrition. Organisms cannot make their own food and depend on complex substances prepared by autotrophs directly or indirectly. These complex substances must be broken down into simpler ones using enzymes. Example, animals and fungi. Question 2. Where do plants get each of the raw materials required for photosynthesis? Answer. Carbon dioxide taken from the atmosphere through tiny pores called stomata, water absorbed from the soil by the roots, energy absorbed from sunlight by chlorophyll, other minerals, nitrogen, phosphorus, iron and magnesium are taken up from the soil. Question 3. What is the role of the acid in our stomach? Answer. The stomach releases hydrochloric acid which creates an acidic medium. This acidic environment is necessary to facilitate the action of the protein digesting enzyme pepsin. Question 4. What is the function of digestive enzymes? Answer. Digestive enzymes act as biological catalysts. Their function is to break down complex food molecules into smaller, simpler molecules that can be absorbed from the alimentary canal. For example, salivary amylase breaks down starch into simple sugar. Question 5. How is the small intestine designed to absorb digested food? Answer. The inner lining of the small intestine has numerous finger-like projections called villi. These villi increases the surface area for absorption. They are richly supplied with blood vessels that take the absorbed food to every cell in the body. Questions page 91. Question 1. What advantage over an aquatic organism does a terrestrial organism have with regard to obtaining oxygen for respiration? Answer. Aquatic organisms use oxygen dissolved in water the amount of which is fairly low compared to the amount of oxygen in the air. Terrestrial organisms breathe the oxygen in the atmosphere. Because the oxygen content in air is higher, terrestrial organisms do not need to breathe as fast as aquatic organisms to meet their oxygen needs. Question 2. What are the different ways in which glucose is oxidized to provide energy in various organisms? Answer. Glucose is broken down into pyruvate in the cytoplasm and then processed in one of three ways. Aerobic respiration occurs in mitochondria using oxygen, breaks pyruvate into carbon dioxide and water, releasing a lot of energy. Anaerobic respiration, fermentation, occurs in yeast. Absence of oxygen converts pyruvate into ethanol and carbon dioxide. Anaerobic respiration, muscles, occurs in muscle cells during lack of oxygen, converts pyruvate into lactic acid. Question 3. How is oxygen and carbon dioxide transported in human beings? Answer. Oxygen. It is carried by the respiratory pigment hemoglobin, which is present in red blood corpuscles and has a high affinity for oxygen. Carbon dioxide. Since it is more soluble in water than oxygen, it is mostly transported in the dissolved form in our blood plasma. Question 4. How are the lungs designed in human beings to maximize the area for exchange of gases? Answer. Within the lungs, the air passage divides into smaller tubes that terminate in balloon-like structures called alveoli. The alveoli provide a very large surface area where the exchange of gases takes place. If spread out, this surface would cover about 80 meters square. The walls of the alveoli also contain an extensive network of blood vessels to facilitate gas exchange. Questions, page 96. Question 1. What are the components of the transport system in human beings? What are the functions of these components? Answer. The components are the heart, blood and blood vessels. Heart acts as a pumping organ to push blood around the body. Blood, a fluid connective tissue consisting of plasma, transports food, CO2, waste, and cells like RBCs transport oxygen and platelets clotting. Blood vessels, a network of tubes, arteries, veins, capillaries that reach all tissues to deliver blood. Question 2. Why is it necessary to separate oxygenated and deoxygenated blood in mammals and birds? Answer. Mammals and birds have high energy needs because they constantly use energy to maintain their body temperature. Separating oxygenated and deoxygenated blood prevents mixing, allowing a highly efficient supply of oxygen to the body to meet these energy needs. Question 3. What are the components of the transport system in highly organized plants? Answer. The transport system consists of two independently organized conducting tubes. Xylem moves water and minerals obtained from the soil. Phloem transports products of photosynthesis food from the leaves to other parts of the plant. Question 4. How are water and minerals transported in plants? Answer. Water and minerals are transported via xylem tissue. Root pressure. Cells in roots take up ions, creating a concentration difference that forces water into the root xylem. Transpiration pull. Evaporation of water from stomata, transpiration, creates a suction that pulls water upwards from the roots to the leaves. Question 5. How is food transported in plants? Answer. Food is transported via phloem tissue through a process called translocation. This is an active process utilizing energy. Material like sucrose is transferred into phloem using energy from ATP. This increases osmotic pressure, causing water to move into the tissue, which pushes the material to the tissues with less pressure. And friends, full form of ATP is adenosine triphosphate. Questions, page 98. Question 1. Define the structure and functioning of nephrons. Answer. Structure. A nephron is the basic filtration unit of the kidney. It consists of a cup-shaped end called Bowman's capsule, which contains a cluster of thin-walled blood capillaries glomerulus. This connects to a tubular part. So friends, this is Bowman's capsule and this is glomerulus. Functioning: blood is filtered in the capillary cluster. Useful substances like glucose, amino acids, salts and water are selectively reabsorbed as the filtrate flows along the tube. The remaining fluid containing nitrogenous waste forms urine. Question 2. What are the methods used by plants to get rid of excretory products? Answer. Plants use varied strategies for excretion. Gaseous waste, oxygen from photosynthesis, and CO2 are released through stomata. Water. Excess water is removed by transpiration. Stored waste. Some wastes are stored in cellular vacuoles or in leaves that fall off. Old xylem. Resins and gums are stored in old xylem. Soil. Some waste substances are excreted into the surrounding soil. Question 3. How is the amount of urine produced regulated? Answer. The amount of urine produced depends on how much excess water is present in the body, how much dissolved waste needs to be excreted. Water is reabsorbed in the kidney tubules. If the body has excess water, less is reabsorbed, producing more urine. Next, exercises. Question 1. The kidneys in human beings are a part of the system for answer C. Excretion. Question 2. The xylem in plants are responsible for answer A. Transport of water. Question 3. The autotrophic mode of nutrition requires answer D. All of the above: carbon dioxide and water, sunlight and chlorophyll. Question 4. The breakdown of pyruvate to give carbon dioxide, water and energy takes place in answer B. Mitochondria. Question 5. How are fats digested in our bodies? Where does this process take place? Answer. Location. The complete digestion of fats takes place in the small intestine. Process. Fats enter the small intestine in the form of large globules, making it difficult for enzymes to act on them. Bile salts from the liver break these large globules into smaller globules. This process is called emulsification. The pancreas secretes the enzyme lipase, which breaks down these emulsified fats into fatty acids and glycerol. Question 6. What is the role of saliva in the digestion of food? Answer. Moistening. Saliva wets the food, making it easier to swallow and move through the alimentary canal. Chemical digestion. Saliva contains an enzyme called salivary amylase. This enzyme breaks down starch, which is a complex molecule, into simple sugars, maltose. Question 7. What are the necessary conditions for autotrophic nutrition and what are its byproducts? Answer. Necessary conditions: presence of chlorophyll to absorb light, supply of water from soil, availability of carbon dioxide from air, sunlight as the energy source. Byproducts: the main byproduct released into the atmosphere is oxygen. Water is also a byproduct. Question 8. What are the differences between aerobic and anaerobic respiration? Name some organisms that use the anaerobic mode of respiration. Answer. Oxygen. Aerobic respiration takes place in the presence of oxygen. Anaerobic respiration takes place in the absence of oxygen. Energy. Aerobic respiration releases a high amount of energy. Anaerobic respiration releases much less energy. End products: aerobic respiration, carbon dioxide and water; anaerobic respiration, ethanol and CO2 in yeast or lactic acid in mussels. Location: aerobic respiration occurs in the cytoplasm and mitochondria. Anaerobic respiration occurs only in the cytoplasm. Organisms using anaerobic respiration: yeast, certain bacteria, and internal parasites like tapeworms. Question 9. How are the alveoli designed to maximize the exchange of gases? Answer. Surface area. Alveoli are balloon-like structures that provide a massive surface area, nearly 80 meters square, for gas exchange. Thin walls. Their walls are extremely thin, 1 cell thick, allowing gases to diffuse quickly. Blood supply. They are covered with an extensive network of blood capillaries, ensuring that oxygen is immediately picked up and CO2 is brought for release. Question 10. What would be the consequences of a deficiency of hemoglobin in our bodies? Answer. Hemoglobin is the respiratory pigment responsible for carrying oxygen from the lungs to all body tissues. A deficiency would lead to anemia. The body's cells would not receive enough oxygen for efficient respiration. Symptoms: fatigue, breathlessness, dizziness, and a pale appearance because the body has less energy for normal functions. Question 11. Describe double circulation of blood in human beings. Why is it necessary? Answer. In double circulation, blood passes through the heart twice during one complete cycle of the body. First, pulmonary circulation. Deoxygenated blood goes from the heart to the lungs and returns oxygenated. Second, systemic circulation. Oxygenated blood goes from the heart to the rest of the body and returns deoxygenated. Necessity. It is necessary to keep oxygenated and deoxygenated blood separate. This ensures a highly efficient supply of oxygen to the body, which is vital for warm-blooded animals like humans to maintain a constant body temperature. Question 12. What are the differences between the transport of materials in xylem and phloem? Answer. Substance. Transport in xylem, water and minerals. Transport in phloem, food, sucrose and amino acids. Direction. Transport in xylem, only upward, roots to leaves. Transport in phloem, bidirectional, leaves to all parts. Mechanism. Transport in xylem, driven by physical forces, transpiration pull. Transport in phloem, driven by osmotic pressure using ATP energy. Question 13. Compare the functioning of alveoli in the lungs and nephrons in the kidneys with respect to their structure and functioning. Answer. Structure: alveoli lungs, tiny balloon-like air sacs with thin walls and many capillaries. Nephrons kidneys, long tubular structures with a cup-shaped Bowman's capsule and capillaries. Function: alveoli, exchange of gases O2 and CO2. Nephrons, filtration of blood and removal of nitrogenous waste. Process: alveoli, based on simple diffusion. Nephrons, based on filtration and selective reabsorption. Result: alveoli, blood becomes oxygenated. Nephrons, urine is formed. So friends, we have completed all these question answers from chapter 5, life processes. We have already studied notes and summary of this chapter. You can find the link in the description and on the screen. If you like the video, kindly like, hype the video and share it with your friends. Also subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon to receive new video notifications. We will meet in the next video. Thank you for watching.